Bartenders of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing that you have ever witnessed at your job? I worked on the bar in a restaurant but would sometimes act as the host if things got busy on the floor. A couple came in once. I sat them down, gave them menus and all that. Not 10 minutes in I pick up a call and it's a woman asking to speak to the guy. I politely let him know someone's on the phone and they say it's urgent. He has a quick chat, seems okay and hangs up the phone before going back to the table. 5 minutes later, she calls again. I go over again, apologize and say they seem really concerned. At this point he's clearly tense and making an effort not to raise his voice. After a few minutes he hangs up, hands the phone back to me and says if she calls again, just tell her I'm not interested in speaking to her. Lo and behold, she calls again, and I say exactly what he asked, to which he laughs in kind of a cliché crazy ex kind of way, and I crap you not. Says well tell him I hope he doesn't eat too much because when he finds the tires I slashed he'll be walking home. Wishing he'd spoken to me and hangs up. I went over a minute later and asked what kind of car he had because there was someone double parked outside and wanted to check it wasn't him. I figured it wasn't worth freaking him out if it was an idle threat. He described the car and said where he'd parked it. I took a cig break and went to check. All 4 tires were fine, but that poor bugger had not a single window left unsmashed or severely cracked and there were a couple of rocks laying on the ground. Needless to say, they did not stay to finish their meal. A guy who pee himself sitting on a bar stool and then wanted to fight me when I cut him off and wouldn't serve him a new drink. I was a bouncer for a few months at a dive bar and had to escort an older gentleman out to his cab because he had pee leaking all over his bra stool. That was the last straw for me. Car plowed into the bar I was working in, coming all the way in, and flipping a pool table on its side. Pinned 3 off-duty Applebee's waitresses against the bar. No one was hurt and the woman who was driving tried to order a drink. I once witnessed a woman openly fondling herself, dress hiked up, underwear pulled aside, in the middle of a not super busy bar. It was very obvious she wanted people to see. The weird part was, after a bar back yelled at her and told to stop or get out, a guy walked up to the bar back and said don't talk to my wife like that. This really happened. Seems like a exhibitionism verism type of deal, with the wife being the former and the husband being the latter. Used to have a regular who sold her time on Backpage. She loved our quizos so she always had the guys bring her there. What stuck out was that she always ordered Jägermeister and Diet Coke in the same glass. I once had to kick her out because she got so wasted she was giving a BJ under one of our tables. When I could clearly see the dong in her mouth she lies about what she's doing and says she is looking for something. Just trying mumble it wasn't me around the shaft holding down her tongue ha ha ha. A pretty dodgy woman came into the pokies room in our venue, gambling slot machine equivalent that we have in Australia, and demanded for us to find an outlet for her to plug in her charger for her phone. So we found her a machine near an outlet and left her to her devices. Later one of our staff was waved down by another stressed patron who said that a woman was moaning in the pokies room. Went in to find out she'd actually plugged in a vibrator and was going to town on herself in front of everyone. Lived in Aus for a little over a year and worked in restaurants. The worst stories I've heard all involved the pokies, i.e. ruining marriages, people's lives. Lots of funny things at New Year when everyone is in fancy dress. Sad older guys who have drank so much they haven't noticed their wig has slipped. The weirdest is definitely having a mariachi band burst in through the door of the pub, play 2 songs and leave. Keep in mind this is the UK. It was a dark rainy midweek night. I don't know where they came from or where they went after, but while they played they had the attention of everyone in the pub. LOL, a wild mariachi band appears. In the UK no less. That's fantastic. I once served Catman a Bloody Mary. Dude had body modifications that were hard not to stare at. He was very friendly. He ordered a blue rare steak and returned it for being overcooked. I told him we can't legally feed you anything more than a blue rare steak. He hissed and ordered another drink. I'd like to add he ate with no silverware. The utensils were there, but he didn't touch them. He had fang teeth and what seemed like a strong bite from lots of practice. But butt-naked kid maybe 5-6 years old came in. Reactions ranged from WTF to laughter to attempts to help. Kid went straight to this lady, an every night regular, who turned out to be his mom. Apparently he hid in her car and she was too zonked on various substances to notice. The kid was naked because he had literally nothing to wear. I later learned, and their duplex apartment a few blocks away was a vermin-infested hellhole. Mom was a serious addict. Her kid following her to the bar was the impetus that led to him being taken away and her getting sent to rehab. I learned all this after the fact, but the kid walking naked into the bar was definitely among the most unexpected things I've ever seen. That's just heartbreaking. A heavy-set Middle Eastern man was drinking heavy and got very drunk at my bar. When he went to the restroom his prime rib dinner had arrived. I think he shot up some smack in the stall cause when he came back way drunker. He then cut a long big strip of prime rib, about the size of a thick hot dog, then while glaring at me, threw his head back and proceeded to swallow it whole like a baby bird would a worm from its mother. It of course got stuck in his throat choking him and he passed out and fell on the floor. We cleaned out his air passage and gave him CPR. 10 minutes passed and he was still unconscious when the paramedics arrived. He left with a heartbeat but died later that night in the hospital. I was chuckling picturing him swallowing it and then it took a dark turn. I'm so sorry you had to see that. Former bartender here, worked at a serious dive for 5 long years. Once had a crack addict covered in prison tattoos explain to me why it's better to shoot H into your penis than into your neck. I am a woman. No penis to shoot H into here. He was actually kind of a good dude in his way. He taught me how to stop people who were smoking crack in the bathroom without having it get rough for me. The trick was politely yelling from the hall to the washroom, I know you're smoking crack in there but if you could please leave I won't call the cops. Thank you, and honestly it worked like a charm. I also once served a very large woman with some pretty decent stubble and her man friend, who was cross-eyed and kinda smelled like pee. They were sitting at a booth at 2 or 3 in the afternoon and she was taking BJ shots, which are topped with whipped cream and you're not supposed to use your hands to drink. Each time I brought her one she lifted her breasts, one by one, and placed them on the table so that she could lean over them to reach the shot glass on the table with her mouth. By shot number 3 or 4 she had whipped cream in her whiskers and her man friend was leaning across the table to stroke her face and say I frickin' love you. Honestly I actually think the moral of that story is that there's someone for everyone, and that's kinda sweet. I have more stories about cracky McPresentats and tons of stories about that bar in general. It was deeply and safe but also kind of a gig I loved, and I met some people I still consider my closest friends. IDKY but cross-eyed and kinda smelt like pee made me laugh way too hard. It's like a character from It's Always Sunny. Used to bartend at a strip club, so I definitely saw some weird things. The ones that stick out the most include 1. Bartending in VIP and a guy refused to pay the girls for the hours. VIP host, who was also a former fighter, asked the guy to pay. Guy gets belligerent, calls him a slur and spits in the host's face. Host hits him once. KO. Guest comes to, stands up and spits blood at everyone and is escorted out. Dancers brought the teeth they found to me at the bar. Not sure what I was supposed to do with them. 2. Watched as one unique dancer, who typically communicated via meows, slowly sip her drink as a guest licked and smelled her armpit. 3. Served Dennis Rodman a shot Georgia Menster, only for him to walk away from the bar as though he didn't have to pay. Chased him down, and a dancer paid for it instead. Well, the teeth you could make into a necklace and the next time someone doesn't pay, you can point to it and say, you don't want to end up like this guy. Great stories. BTW. This happened on my first Friday night. There was 2 French women mid to late 20s having a good night. Very chatty to the staff even though it was busy, but that quite nice and refreshing for a busy night. This one large sweaty guy makes his way to the bar and orders a drink while standing between these 2 women. As he overhears their accent he asks, "Are you 2 French?" The ladies reply politely and continue talking between them. This guy pulls down his pants all the way to his ankles and says, "In that case, welcome to Scotland baby," while making solid eye contact with me looking for approval. At this point one of the girls grabs the guy's dong and balls and starts pulling him out of the pub like he's a disobedient dog, and the pure look of regret and embarrassment on the guy's face was priceless. She was really pulling with all her force and the guy was just trying to stay in one piece. The other girl finished her drinks, tipped us all very well. thanked us for a great night and swiftly left. As she opened the door I heard a faint yell of "But it was funny, right?" I love this. A new way to deal with flashes. Gordon Ramsay walked in, ordered a 1-stroke 2-size margarita, and told me it was perfect after he finished it. He was a freaking gentleman and even bowed and said thank you on the way out. I later learned they were filming an episode of Kitchen Nightmares around the corner and he knew the chef who owned the restaurant where I was bartending. He came in the next night too. I had a convo with fricking Gordon Ramsay 2 days in a row. Finally, some delicious fricking margarita. One lady, older, mid-50s, walked up to 2 younger guys, barely 21 and said I got big hands and a tight pee. I had to tell her to leave them alone. She was very drunk there regularly. I'm more interested in why she thought big hands was a selling point. A lady came in and very casually asked for a pack of Camel Crush and a glass of milk. I asked her if she wanted ice in it as it was a hot Texas summer day. She said no, then went out to the patio to smoke her cigs and drink her milk. That is a bit odd. Crushes and milk. Gross lol. I'm trying reconcile the 2 flavors and I just keep getting the McPoils from Sunny lol. Worked a bar right downtown on a very main Saint in a very open and visible setting. Middle-aged wealthy looking guy comes in, orders a pint. No problems. Gets the pint, walks back out the door, probably gonna smoke, hang out outside, whatever. Gets back into his car and immediately pulls it and drives off. He did it so fast and with such confidence like it was a freaking Big Mac and we were McDonald's. Full pint in a glass. It was hilarious and weird. Small town bar. Guy rides his horse to town. Proceeds to get drunk. Goes out and rides the horse into the bar. Horse knows where home is so the guy lets the horse take him home. That's like the oldest trick in the book. The horse knows where the home is. My grandfather used to do crap like that in rural Lithuania but with a horse cart. Now I'm waiting for this feature to be available on Teslas. When I went out to the smoking area to clear some glasses and checking intoxication, a big red flag that these 2 people that have had enough and needed to leave was this guy fingering the girl he was hooking up with in the butthole. Now, I know what you're thinking. How would I see him actually slipping a finger in? Well, her butt was half out and about 7 customers had their eyes popping out of their heads the whole time. This was also in the smokers area, which was out the front of the pub and on the main road of the town I lived in. Just another day at work. I caught a guy jerking off in the dart room one slow Tuesday night. It was last call and I was moving the floor mats to mop behind the bar when I saw him, with his back to me making a jerk off motion in the dart room. I assumed he was making a gesture at someone like a joke or something, so I ignored it. Until I walk by again and he still do it. Frick. I walk up and there he is. Hog out. Totally hard jerking off, staring at the 2 couples of kids finishing their dart game. What the frick, dude, was all I could think to say. He tried to hide his dong and replied, I'm on a bunch of Molly, I'm sorry, I'm waiting for my girlfriend. I just threw my hands up and said you have 5 seconds to get the frick out of this bar. I don't wanna bounce a dude with a boner. He ran away. I walked up to the 2 couples and said, why didn't you tell me he was doing that? They said they felt that he was being weird but didn't look over cause he was making them uncomfortable. Unreal. I tell the story to everyone and after describing his appearance multiple people confirmed that he has done this at other places and gotten away with it. Fast forward a couple years and I'm working at a different bar. A customer is like, hey dude, some guy is in here with a boner. I look around the room and there he is, jerk off guy, with a boner. Again. I just scream across the bar, get the frick out of here, jerk off guy, and he ran out. Bar patrons, if someone is making you uncomfortable or jerking off in the bar, please alert the staff. This sounds like a comedy skit where here's the jerk off guy that never learns and you always yelling loudly at him and chasing him away. I was a bartender in NZ a few years back, and some dude attending a work function lit his own face on fire with a flaming shot. He lit it, then shot it, but poured a bunch of it on his face at the same time. Afterwards he didn't want to go to the hospital, he wanted to keep partying, so I got him some burn cream from the kitchen. Every time he came back to the bar after that, the blisters forming on his face were bigger, juicier, and nastier. That story trumps another time when I came across a dude getting a BJ in the corner of the balcony while I was packing up after we'd closed. I let them finish. Not a bartender but work at a place with a bar. This husband and wife sat at the bar when another man came in and demanded the woman get up and move. The husband defended his wife and said they got there first and there were other open chairs at the bar the stranger could sit at. The man proceeded to verbally threaten the couple's lives before pulling out a gun. My manager called the cops and informed the man that the cops would be there in less than a minute because they patrolled the shopping center constantly. So the man ran out the front door and tried to escape on foot, but police saw a man running with a gun in his hands out in public away from a restaurant where a man had just pulled a gun on someone and arrested him. My manager had to go with the police to the police station to identify the man and give a statement. It was the wildest thing that's ever happened to me at work. The ice well could be reached on both the bar side and the cocktailers side. A freaking nurse pulls a bar seat up next to it and puts her foot in it while bitching about how rough her shift was. I saw it happen and literally cussed her out. Like, the frick is your problem? It was a busy Saturday night and now we had no ice well in the bar and my barback had to stop what he was doing to drain and clean the well, and I just got buckets of ice and put them in the bar in the meantime. But they had to be refilled pretty regularly in comparison to the larger well, and now we had these buckets in our way. She tries to come in again like a month later and I immediately recognized her and told her to frick off before I call the hospital she works at and lets them know how she deliberately put her feet in a place that would contaminate everyone else's drinks. She tried to yell at me saying that was slander. I said the cameras would prove otherwise. I quit there some months later and my old barback got promoted to bartender. He texted me like 6 months after saying she tried to come in again and he recognized her and let her come in, but then told all her friends that were with her what happened. LOL. WTF, that's disgusting. Former bouncer here. This kid was dead set on getting into the club one night. Clearly underaged. I turned him away when his fake it didn't work. An hour later, he walks up with a box of Christmas decorations, saying he was so sorry for being late with the decorations. It was August. I turned him away again. An hour or so later, a foot crashes through the ceiling. The kid climbed onto the roof looking for a way inside. My boss jabbed at him with a mop and he retreated. Kid ran off but he left a shoe behind. This comment has been my favorite. I actually laughed out loud at the thought of your boss shooing away his foot with a mop. LOL. Bartender in a strip club here. Amateur night. Rando girl hops up on stage. Crowd loves it. She uses water to make stage slippery. Slides around. Overshoots and flies off the stage. Somehow straddling the arm of a broken metal chair. Cuts her crack butthole way wide open. Needs to go to hospital. I was in nursing school so I assessed her injury. Bad. Bad. That never heals. Mom, it is your wedding and you do not have shoes on. I am going to have to ask you to step away from the broken freaking glass you're trying to pick up from your groomsmen being sloppy. God, I had to kick a lady out of her sister's wedding reception because she refused to make her kid keep her shoes on. Actually picked up the kid. She was about to stomp into a big pile of broken glass. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm so late. Backstory. I am from backwoods Mississippi and was working in the city closest to my hometown at the time. Lots of forest areas that are super isolated. I was bartending. Alone. Sunday morning at a brewery. I had one ornery regular that had come in, one random lady who wore headphones and had her back to me. This dude rolls from his SUV, illegally parked, wearing a plaid button-up that had sleeves that were both different colors from the body, and on each shoulder, 2 huge Bigfoot emblems. I told the man I liked his shirt because it was a cool shirt. He said, I've seen it. Because I have a goofy old man for a dad. I laughed. And he said, no seriously, I've seen it. I've seen the Bigfoot. The regular choked on his drink. This man proceeds to tell me all about the Bigfoot he's seen. For like half an hour. It's near my parents' home. Actually right near where my brother is buried, apparently. I ask him about what parts he saw it specifically. He has no details. Just assured me that his friends showed him, and also that he'd seen little ones, as well. No more than 3 feet tall. Then he said he had more shirts to show me and went and got them from his car. This is where the regular chugged the rest of his beer, said, sorry kid, I can't deal with him, and left me there. He comes back in, and tells me all about his plans. In the back of his SUV, some weird contraption. You could only see it when he opened the door. Turns out, it was a Bigfoot cage. His plan, and I swear to God this was verbatim, was to catch it and then call all the news stations and journalists and bloggers and media. Let them get their pictures and stories and videos, and then let him go, because he doesn't belong in a cage. And then he asked me if he could buy concert tickets. We were not a concert venue, and left without purchasing anything at all. I was so sad that no one had experienced it with me until the girl from the table turned around and was like, I unplugged my headphones as soon as he walked in and listened to all of that, and oh my god. Free range Bigfoot doesn't belong in a cage. Former bartender. Weirdest? Probably the guy with one leg asking me if I wanted to frick him. He said a lot chicks get off on stumps. I have a few other things, but it's not worth thinking about. Being a bartender made me realize how much I dislike most people. A more weirdly serendipitous moment was on a Halloween night when I was closing up and forgot to lock the front door. A very tall man stumbled in with vomit on the front of his shirt. I kept telling him he had to leave multiple times that I was closed. Then he drunkenly takes off his mask and lo and behold it was one of my friends from grade school. Real Scooby-Doo moment. Jinkies. The tall Chuck tosser was Shaggy all along. A lady who shat herself so violently in our bathroom and then passed out she had diarrhea in the cracks of her toes. Tried to give me a hug when I had to remove her from the stall. Feel bad for the friend who had to drive her home. A guy used to drop bags of kittens off on the highway near our restaurant, and one summer we had an army of stray cats that would run up to people's tables on the patio and take their food. The sheriffs finally caught a guy. His wife was a crazy cat lady with dozens of cats, and he would wear an actual ghillie suit and bring the litters through the woods to the highway. There's only one left, but he's a dumpster cat and he's been there longer than most of the employees at this point. His name is the Old Man. One time a vent in our bar started billowing out smoke towards the end of the night, so we had to evacuate the building and call the fire department. On her way out, one woman stopped me asking if she could make reservations near the band the next weekend. We don't take reservations near the band. She knew that, and the restaurant was literally on fire. I said, feel the room, lady, and there's more, but those are the three that come to my mind. That last one sounds like the weirdest possible Field of Dreams reboot. If you burn it, they will come. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.